Hi, this is Eleanor Lamb with Transport Topics. I'm here in Columbus, Ohio, covering the National Truck Driving Championships. This morning I had the chance to sit down with newly confirmed Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Chief Ray Martinez. We chatted about electronic logging device compliance and about how he connects with drivers who may not see eye to eye on certain federal regulations. Ray, you were confirmed on February 13th, so you've been on the job about 6 months in this new post. How are you liking it so far?
It's great. It's exhilarating. The event this morning that we attended was really brings a lot of energy to the job. This is one of the more exciting events that I've been to in the 6 months.
It certainly is. Is this your first NTDC?
It is indeed, yeah. And it's really great to see such high level of professionalism in a room. I mean, that was a full ballroom, and these folks are the best of the best that were in that room. And so I'm excited to see some of the competition and meet some of the folks today.
Great. Now, 2017 was a big year for FMCSA and the trucking industry as a whole because the electronic logging device mandate took effect at the tail end of that year. Can you tell us, how is industry-wide compliance and acceptance of ELDs going?
Right. So, I don't want to soft sell it because we understand that, first of all, it impacts a lot of people. This is a very big industry, but we believe that it is going very well. The compliance rates are up. The non-compliance rate is well under 1% in terms of violations.
Okay.
Hours of service violations are down as well. So we think that's having that intended effect. But I say I don't want to soft sell this because we understand that there are some drivers that are still getting used to it, some carriers are still getting used to it, and we want to work with them, continue to work with them. I view 2018 and even into 2019 as continuing a transitional period so that everybody gets used to this, and also on the enforcement side. They have to get used to this as well.
What's the most difficult part on the enforcement side?
Well, I think it's the same thing that drivers find, is that you're getting used to a new technology, making sure that you actually understand how it's supposed to work and whether it's working or not. Whether it's an ELD or an AOBRD. And that ultimately what you really need is, are you getting the data that you need as a driver or as an enforcement official?
Of course, of course. Now, you participated in a listening session at the Mid-America Trucking Show. That was this past March. And there was a group of owner-operators there who aired a few complaints about hours of service laws and then, in tandem with that, ELDs. How do you connect and develop understanding with drivers who have some fundamental disagreements with such laws?
Well, that's first of all, it comes with some experience. As you know, I was a motor vehicle commissioner in 2 states, and perhaps not always the most popular person. And people always tend to have issues with motor vehicles, DMV departments. But it did get me used to understanding one thing. Listen. People are not, people if they're frustrated, they're voicing a frustration. Try to get to what is causing that. Because I believe that there's always a middle ground that we can, where we can find commonality, we can address that and move the ball forward. I believe that drivers in this business and most carriers, by and large, we're all concerned about the same thing. They all want to go home at night. They want the roads to be safer, and we're trying to get there. The ELD was a congressional mandate. I do believe it's going to have a good effect on improving safety. We're in the process of trying to get used to that right now, both on the enforcement side and on the industry side. So we're still in a transitional process. But when people get frustrated, I try and say, all right, let's take a deep breath. And let's get to the nut of what is bothering you. Is it the new technology? Because that can be frustrating. Or is it that now we really have to wrestle with the idea of hours of service?
Well, listening sessions certainly would be a valuable tool because, as you say, a lot of times people simply want to be heard. So that would be a useful way to do that. Another sector of the industry that we hear a lot about are agriculture and livestock haulers. And they're kind of a unique sector of the industry because, of course, their goods could spoil or perish if they're stuck out on the road. And these drivers have repeatedly asked for flexibility with certain hours of service laws. Does FMCSA plan to release any guidance specific to this sector of the industry, either on ELD use or HOS laws?
So we did issue some guidance, it was about a month and a half ago, both for specific to the agricultural industry, where we delineated more clearly, when the clock starts, so to speak, in terms of your pickup location for the goods that you're picking up. In this case, it's agricultural commodities, non-processed. And those are specific things that are specific to industries. I mean, as we know, this industry is very segmented, and agriculture is one of those great examples. I've learned more from meeting with livestock haulers and ag haulers than in the last 6 months. That's not something that I was exposed to previously. So I hope to continue that conversation because we do want to provide as much flexibility as we can that doesn't impact safety. Specific to particular parts of the industry. And then, as you know, we also did a guidance document put out regarding personal conveyance, which is another thing that we had heard from across the board about, well, when can I use the vehicle for personal conveyance without being charged for that time? And I thought the guidance documents was a good first step in terms of clarifying that.
Okay, great. One concern for a lot of drivers, especially women and minority drivers, is safety. What is FMCSA doing to understand and address the issue of crime prevention for this sector of drivers?
Right. Well, listen, the people who know this best and are closest to this are the drivers themselves. And this industry does monitor itself very well, but there's a lot of eyes and ears out there. I think one of the issues with regard to safety is, of course, the parking issue, which I'm very sensitized to. And I wish I had a magic wand to, that we could wave. We don't have authority over that specifically. But there are solutions out there. One of the ways that we could contribute, and it is tied to one of the bigger issues, is looking at the hours of service and seeing whether, in fact, that is having a negative effect and whether trucks are and drivers are artificially having to stop somewhere that is not safe and not in a good location. Right. A lot of this does, require more planning on the part of the drivers and the carriers to say, well, here's where we're going to be. There's a lot of unpredictable things out there, traffic, weather, etc. Of course. That has to be taken into consideration. But safe rest areas for drivers is it to benefits everybody, even people not in the industry, because we want well-rested drivers that can take their rest breaks in safe areas.